You and I as the Israelites, have to war within yourselves and against your own fleshly lusts. You have to war with worldly temptation. With all the spiritual energy you can muster, war for the kingdom of Yah.
We aim and shoot scriptural bullets at demon troops. I'm just spitting truth. Look at yourself if it's staying in you. Release yourself when the lies in the doctrine you clinging to. Repenting mean the path that you walk and you see it through. That mean you gotta switch up your people, leaving the crew. That mean you gotta watch what you say and watch what you do. But until you see the truth.
All right, shalom, shalom. What's going on, Israel? First, I want to start off by giving all praise to the Most High Yah. I want to do so in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shah. Today's topic is titled Hygiene in the Bible. It's one thing about when you come to read this Bible, coming to the truth, and something that our forefathers had to do, had to come in like a baby, not knowing anything, and relearn everything. You get Deuteronomy 10, 12, and 13.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verses 12. And now, Israel, what doeth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. 13. To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
You see that? So the Most High didn't give us these commandments to benefit him. He gave it to us for our good. So that's what you got to keep in mind. We're doing this for our own good. Let me get 1 Corinthians 1 and 25.
Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 25. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men.
You see that the lowest that the Most High can go is still better than the best that we can ever come up with. His most foolish thing that he's done is better than the wisest thing that we've ever done. So keep that in mind when we get these commandments and we read them, understand them, and do them. You sometimes we don't understand why we doing this and why we doing that. But it's because the Most High, he know it all. And we don't know nothing. Let me pull up this first article. This came out on CNN a couple of days ago, 3 days ago, July 17th, and it's titled, Influencer Shower Routines Are Overkill. Here's the one thing you need to shower, according to experts. Let me skip down to the meat and potatoes of the article. Okay, the bare minimum you need to be clean. You may feel like an everything shower delivers a deeper clean than a regular shower, but from a basic hygiene perspective, it doesn't accomplish much. For one, body odor, oily skin, or many of the things we associate with being unclean are more aesthetic concerns than direct health risks, said Dr. Elaine Larson, a professor emerita of epidemiology and nursing at Columbia University in New York City. Bathing is mostly for preventing an overgrowth of harmful germs, Larson said. Most Americans shower every day, some twice a day, but that's not necessarily improving their health. How much should we shower? Most adults could get away with showering every 2 or 3 days, she said. Even for the stench conscious, an arsenal of cleansing products and tools isn't necessary. One fragrance-free, gentle body cleanser scrubbed into the armpits and groin area could do the trick, said Dr. George Lipoff, a board-certified dermatologist and an adjunct clinical associate professor of dermatology at Temple University in Philadelphia. Within just 5 to 10 minutes, the simple washing regime of soap and water delivers a full cleanse, he said. All the other shower steps, such as shampoo, conditioner, exfoliating, and shaving, are generally more about how we look and feel. Using dozens of products in the shower isn't just unnecessary, it can even be harmful, warned Dr. Angela Lamb, an associate professor and director of the Westside Mount Sinai Dermatology for faculty practice in New York City. So you see that? So according to doctors, we don't have to bathe but every 2 or 3 days. That's what they said. I just read it. But let me get one more article before we jump into what the Bible says. Ashton Kutcher, and this is another CNN article. It's titled Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis says they don't believe in bathing their kids or themselves too much. Now these some Edomites, of course. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis appeared to be on an episode of Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast and talk turned to bathing. After Shepard told co-host Monica Padman that using soap every day rids the body of natural oils, Kutcher and Kunis agreed, saying they only wash vitals every day. Padman was stunned to be in the daily full body wash minority who taught you not to wash. I didn't have hot water growing up as a child, so I didn't shower very much anyway, Kunis said. That has apparently continued with her and Kutcher's two kids, Wyatt and Dimitri. I wasn't that parent that bathed my newborn ever, Kunis said. And now they are older, Kutcher said they have a system. If you can see the dirt on them, clean them, he said. Otherwise, there is no point. Kutcher said he does wash his armpits and crotch daily and nothing else ever. And has a tendency to throw some water on my face after a workout to get all the salts out. Kunis says she washes her face twice a day. You see that? So these two prominent celebrities, they say they never get a newborn a bath. And they don't even get a self a full bath ever. They just wash up under their arms and stuff and keep it moving pretty much. But like I said, let's get some let's see what the Bible got to say about that. Let's get Genesis 43, 23 and 24.
There's the book of Genesis, chapter 43, verses, you said 23?
23 and 24, come.
And he said, peace be to you, fear not, your God, and the God of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money, and he brought Simeon out unto them. 24. And the man brought them in, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender.
You see that? So you'll see this in a couple more scriptures, but every time somebody took a journey and went somewhere and they arrived, they immediately wash my hands and feet. So every time you travel, you wash your hands and feet traditionally in the Bible. You get Tobit 6, 1 and 2.
Book of Tobit, chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. And as they went on their journey, they came in the evening to the river Tigris, and they lodged there. And when the young man went down to wash himself, a fish leaped out of the river and would have devoured him.
You see that? So this young man, he had just finished the journey. When they arrived, went down the river, took a full body wash. Not just I'm finna wash under my arms right quick, maybe might wipe sweat off my forehead or something. But no, he washed his whole body. Let me get this next article, because this ain't new. This is not new news. This is a History Channel article, and it's titled "Why Pilgrims Arriving in America Resisted Bathing." And I said this kind of go show you who the Israelites are too. When the Mayflower Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth in the early 17th century, they didn't smell terrific, according to the Native American accounts. Unlike the Wampanoag, these Europeans didn't bathe regularly. A surviving member of the Patuxet Nation, named Squanto, even tried and failed to convince them to start washing themselves, according to a 1965 biography. Bathing, as you and I know it, was very, very common until very, very uncommon until the later part of the 18th century. This went for people of all social classes. Louis XIV, a 17th century king of France, is said to have only taken 3 baths in his entire life. both rich and poor might wash their faces and hands on a daily or weekly basis, but almost no one in Western Europe washed their whole body with any regularity, says Ward. The separatist pilgrims and Puritans who followed them may have even thought that submerging their whole body in water was unhealthy and that taking all their clothes off to do so was immodest. So you see that the same people that's teaching you that you don't have to bathe every day. And like I said, this CNN now. This, it's in the health section. They're teaching you not to bathe every day. Are the same ones that didn't bathe back then. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Let me keep reading on this. The idea of being clean wasn't closely associated with water in the 17th century, anywhere in the Western world, Ward says. Although bathhouses did exist in the colonies, they were not for bathing in the modern sense. Rather, bathhouses were thought of as a kind of medicinal cure or else a place for wealthy people to relax. So they pretty much had like a sauna or, they just hanging out, chilling. They ain't actually getting clean. In the 1770s, the royal governor of the colony of Virginia used his bathhouse to cool down on a particularly hot day. And the handful of baths Louis XIV took, those were on the advice of a doctor to treat his convulsions. Cleanliness, to the extent that people thought about it in the 17th century, had much more to do with what now we call underwear than anything else, Ward says. Colonists kept themselves clean by changing the white linens under their clothes. The cleaner and whiter the linens, the cleaner the person, or so the thinking went. So basically, they just changed their underclothes ever so often, and they say they was clean. They never actually bathed themselves, but they just changed their clothes. It was thought that the linen underwear was what really kept the body clean, because it was assumed that the underwear itself was the agent that cleaned the body, that it absorbed the body's impurities and the dirt and the sweat and so on, he says. The linens were supposed to be visible around the collars so that others could see how clean and morally pure the person wearing them was. A Puritan minister's distinctive display of white linen marked him as not only a man of God, but also a gentleman, writes Kathleen M. Brown, a professor of history at the University of Pennsylvania. You see that? That's why the priests, they wear the little white collar up there, so there you go. In an age not characterized by regular full-body bathing, she continues, no gentleman wearing white linen at the neck could neglect to change it regularly, for a collar worn for too many days would display his skin's effusions to the world. Puritans also thought that keeping their bed linens clean was a way of keeping their bodies clean. Going to bed without taking off one's outer clothing was considered unhygienic and immoral. In a letter from 1639, a colonist in Maine accused his maid of being sluttish for going bead with her clothes and stockings, thus dirtying her bed linens. All right, so let's pay this some attention. The Native Americans that colonists encountered had different priorities in terms of hygiene. Like the Wampanoag, most Native Americans bathed openly in rivers and streams, just like you read in Tobit, where the man was bathing in the river. Most Native Americans bathed openly in rivers and streams. And they also thought it was gross for Europeans to carry their own mucus around in handkerchiefs. Most Native people's teeth were also in much better shape than Europeans. Native Americans cleaned their mouths using a variety of methods, including brushing their teeth with wooden chew sticks, chewing on fresh herbs like mint to freshen their breath, and rubbing charcoal on their teeth to whiten them. People rub charcoal on their teeth today. Where do you think they got this from? In contrast, most Europeans who came over may not have brushed their teeth at all and had a diet that was generally worse for their oral health. So you see that? Who sound like the Israelites and who sound like the heathen? Let me give me Psalms 51 and verse 7.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 7.
51 and 7.
51 and 7. To the chief musician, a psalm of David, when Nathan the prophet came unto him after he gone into Bathsheba. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions.
There's verse 7. Give me verse 7. I just need verse
7. My bad.
Yeah.
Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow.
You see that? So if David said, purge me with hyssop. So it's, symbolically he's saying clean me, in a spiritual symbolic way. But if you know what hyssop is a herb. And hyssop is in the same family as like peppermint and spearmint and, like sage and all that. So like I just read in this article, the Native Americans used to chew mint leaves to freshen their breath. So when you read the evidence, it sounds like the Native Americans are closer, are the Israelites of the Bible. They're doing the same things that we used to do, that the people in the Bible used to do back in the day. Let me get Susanna, 1:15 through 17.
Susanna chapter 1, verse 15. And it fell out, as they watched a fit time. She went in as before with 2 maids only, and she was desirous to wash herself in the garden, for it was hot. And there was nobody there save the 2 elders that had hid themselves and watched her. Now,
17. Yep.
now she said to her maids, bring me oil and washing balls, and shut the garden doors that I may wash them.
You see that? That sounds like a same thing that we see women doing today. Black women, at least. They get in there, they get their oil, they have they bath bomb, they have they good smelling soap and conditioner, and they go in there and go to town. But the article I just read on CNN, it said using all them products ain't good for you. You see that? So what we go take? We go follow the Bible, or we go follow what some Edomite doctor on CNN just made up. Like I said, we know who smell better. Let me get Exodus 30, 19, and 20.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 30, verse 19 and 20. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. Or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto the Lord.
You see that? So every time you go into the temple, make an offering, you better take a bath. So this was custom back then. Let me get 2 Samuel 12 and 20. It's another example of that.
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 20. Then David arose from the earth and washed, and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, when he required. They set bread before him, and he did eat.
You see that? So David washed before he went into the temple also, and he put some oil on himself. So David then took a bath, put on some lotion, oiled his hair proper. So every black person I know, that's what you did growing up in the house. You take a bath every day before you go somewhere and put on some doggone lotion. They say you don't need all that stuff though. You get Leviticus 15, 16 through 18.
Leviticus chapter 16.
15. 15.
15. What was the verse one time?
16 through 18.
16 through 18. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the even. And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water, and be unclean until the even. The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water, and be unclean until the even.
You see that? So this, every time you get ready to be married, you stay in the house with your wife. Every time you go and lay with your wife, you better take a bath according to what the scriptures say. Take your whole body. Look, wash the sheets too. Everybody taking a bath. Let me get verse 19 through 21.
Leviticus 15, 19 to 21. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue is her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening.
You see that? So it's when your woman going through her cycle, you know, you got to separate her for 7 days. And, you know, everything that she touched, all her clothes, the linen that she set on, you got to wash all of that stuff. And then, you know, of course, she going to have to be washed too. So that's why I say we wasn't going no long time. We wasn't, you know, we go take a bath every, 3-4 days and stuff. Because everything you do requires you to take a bath. You got to travel, you got to take a bath. If you sleep with your wife, you're taking a bath. Your woman come on a cycle, everybody taking a bath. Everything in the house got to be clean. So we, this is not our culture. All this going 3-4 days without a bath. You know, some folks talking about they ain't taking no bath ever. Come on now. Now, like I said, who sound like the Israelites of the day? Who sound like the heathen? Give me drop down to verse 31.
Verse 31. Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them.
You see that? Because we cannot call ourselves being in the truth and gathering in the name of the Most High. Also, you definitely wasn't coming in that tabernacle, smelling like who knows what, with the filth from everything all over us. The Most High, how people say cleanliness is next to godliness. That's actually a true saying, as you can see from the scriptures and stuff that we have brought out. Can you pull up that video up?
Like from the beginning?
Skip to, I think it was like at 4 minutes. Yep, there you go.
English cities were built around their factories, and their houses were stacked on each other, making space at the time extremely limited. Couple that with the lack of modern plumbing we often take for granted, and English streets were literally full of crap. Without toilets, the city chose to inexplicably toss the citizens' human excrement casually into the streets. Alternatively, some buildings built underground cesspools for poop and pee to hang out. But inevitably, those would overflow and toxic waste would spill out onto the streets like Philadelphia fans after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It hadn't yet occurred to the occupants of England during the Industrial Revolution that dung in the street might be gross and full of bacteria, but the science hadn't caught up to their reality yet. Despite the notably deteriorating conditions, the UK sort of dragged its heels to pass any meaningful legislation to end the health crisis caused by lack of sanitation. But it wasn't for the lack of anybody bringing it to their attention. In 1842, reformer Edwin Chadwick, British sanitation advocate, released a report succinctly entitled Report on the Sanitary Conditions of Laboring Population of Great Britain. In it, he argued that the living conditions of Britain's poorest working class were extremely subpar, and tied the relationship between living in squalor and spreading disease. This pitch, however convincing, went nowhere until 1848 with the passing of the first British Public Health Act. In Chadwick's 1842 proposal, he presented the idea of not living in squalor as a way to save the government some change by knocking poor people off of government assistance. Many families at the time relied on government funds and services after losing family members to a myriad of infectious diseases. To all who are watching this, please don't get any ideas. It would take yet another cholera outbreak in 1848 before the government implemented the act, which included a framework for towns to have medical doctors, proper sewage, trash disposal, and clean drinking water. In other words, fully functioning safe cities. With neither the money nor the oversight to administer these regulations, however, it was mostly meaningless words on paper. It was ultimately up to local jurisdictions to impose the act in their cities, but there was nothing to necessarily compel them to do so, assuming that people getting cholera all the time wasn't enough. If you remember our Black Plague videos, it was widely accepted that disease was spread through biology.
So you see that everybody was getting sick, and they didn't understand why. But they was just disposing they excrement into the street. And but let's see what the Bible say, because you see how they say science hadn't caught up with that yet to figure out what to do. Get Deuteronomy 23, 10 through 14. Because it's funny to me how the Bible, this was written in the Bible many thousands of years ago, but you know, the European, the Edomites hadn't figured this out as of the mid 1800s. Sound like the Most High's thinking is much higher than the man. All right, give me that. Deuteronomy 23, 10 through 14.
And it says, if there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, that chanceth him by night, then shall he go abroad out of the camp. He shall not come within the camp. But it shall be, when evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water. And when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again.
You see that? So if you feel sick, get away from everybody. That's first of all, because you know you'll get disease and stuff, and you know they didn't know this at the time that you know if you had a disease, you're supposed to get away from everybody. Keep going.
12. Thou shalt have a place also without the camp, and whither thou shalt go forth abroad. And thou shalt have a paddle upon thy rampart, and it shall be, when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee.
You see that? So this saying, if you had to go use the bathroom, you have a paddle on your weapon, like pretty much a shovel. You go dig a hole somewhere, away from the camp. Dig a hole, use the bathroom in the hole, and cover it back up. So you know now I can break down and you know and let nature can deal with it. Europeans, they throwing it in the street, just letting it, you know, and everybody got to walk through it and live in squalor. Keep going.
14. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee.
You see that? So it's saying if the Most High sees some uncleanness, he just goes straight up, turn away from you. He don't want to deal with it. He don't want to see it. The Most High like clean things. You see that? And but yeah, like I said, the Europeans, they ain't figured this out till, you know, like I said, the mid 1800s. It's funny how the Most High in his infinite wisdom gave us this thousands of years ago. And the Europeans just caught on to it not even 200 years ago. Now you tell me who ain't the Israelites? It definitely ain't the fake Jews. You know, the people that say they're Jews, so-called nation of Israel over there today. Clearly, they not the real Israelites because they didn't figure this out till the 1800s. Like I said, we black people been had this knowledge for, you know, long as we can, as long as we know. Get this last scripture, Psalms 19 and 7.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 19 and verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple.
You see that? Most High gave us this wisdom. He made us clean. And he left everybody else to figure it out. And, you know, we got to get cholera outbreaks and go through all this junk before they can figure out how to make a toilet. Like I said, we didn't have this knowledge for thousands of years. And the modern city is just now catching up just a couple hundred years ago. With that, yeah, shalom.
You and I as the Israelites, have to war within yourselves and against your own fleshly lust. You have to war with worldly temptation. With all the spiritual energy you can muster, war for the kingdom of Yah.
We aim and shoot scriptural bullets at demon troops. I'm just spitting truth. Look at yourself if it's staying in you. Release yourself from the lies and the doctrine you clinging to. Repenting mean the path that you walk and you see it through. That mean you gotta switch up your people leaving the crew. That mean you gotta watch what you say and watch what you do. But until you see the truth.